Hello, we are doing a Facebook Live today, and today's Facebook Live is going to be all about emotional eating. So let me just make sure we look good, okay? And I'm going to apologize in advance. I've been doing coaching calls today with people, and they're like, it doesn't sound like you, Heather. What is going on? And I am on the mend from a little head cold. So today is, I think, the first day I've had my voice all day. So I just want to tell you, if I don't sound like me, that is why. But what I'm excited about, what we're going to talk about today, is ending emotional eating. This is a huge struggle point for so many people. I'm constantly working on this with my coaching clients and community members, and I know how difficult this is. So what I'd like to do is, first off, if you don't know who I am, maybe this is your very first time in Half Size Me, let me just talk to you for just a second. So my name is Heather. I am the host of the podcast show Half Size Me. If you want to check it out in iTunes and Stitcher Radio, you can. I had battled my weight my entire life, and there's tons of before and after photos on Instagram, Facebook, my about page on my website, so if you want to check those out. But basically, I had battled my weight my entire life. I struggled with binge eating. I struggled with emotional eating. I ended up even going for therapy at one point in my journey. And ultimately, I got up to my highest weight of almost 340 pounds at one point. And I have lost about 170 pounds, and I've kept it off since 2012. The reason this is a big deal, yeah, a lot of people are saying, oh, it's because you lost so much weight. No, it's about how long I've maintained it. So to be fully honest with you, I've lost weight many times, as I'm sure most of us have, right? And I gained it back. And I was really good at losing weight, but not keeping weight off. So if you really get into the show, you'll start to notice that that's a lot of what I'm really focusing on, this idea of maintenance as a mindset in order to not only lose this weight, but keep it off. Because today in the coaching call I did with somebody, she's like, I had an epiphany. I was doing your coaching cast, Stop Dieting and Start Losing. And she says, you really redefine success in there, where you say, success is not about how much you lost or how fast you lost it on a plan. It's like, if I gained it all back, then it wasn't a success, even though I might want to classify it as a success. So it's really redefining success. So for me, it wasn't enough to lose this weight. It was really about learning how to live the rest of my life and keep it off. I didn't want to gain it back again another time. So that's a little bit about me. From there, I launched the Half Size Me podcast to help with my maintenance journey. And we've been around for a long time. Since 2012, we started the Half Size Me community in 2013. And that's been an amazing place. I have so many good resources in there for community members. This year, I'm rolling out a lot of products and things that will help you, called Coaching Cast, teaching toolkits, to teach you a lot of the valuable lessons that I'm working with my one-on-one coaching clients. And again, for 2 big free resources for you. The show, which is over, I think we're pushing 379 episodes. And then the second really great free resource for you, go to halfsizeme.com/VIP. That's where you can sign up to get my 5-course, it's a 5-part course called Permanent Fat Loss, okay? And this is gonna walk you through the 5 lessons that are imperative for you to lose this weight permanently, permanent fat loss, okay? So if you want those 5 lessons, again, go to halfsizeme.com/VIP, and our lovely moderator, I believe Lauren is here tonight, she'll put the link up for you. That is something you want to get your hands on, and VIP members get a lot of other great benefits, but I just want to make sure you know that. All right. So tonight we're going to be talking all about ending emotional eating. And there's a great little segment here I took from Psychology Today. It was all about the common myths about emotional eating and why we're doing it. It says, if we look into our emotional lives with the idea that our emotions are forces beyond our control that happen to us, we are inclined to accept bad behavior that otherwise might be controlled. Really listen to what that's saying. If we look into our emotional lives with the idea that our emotions are forces beyond our control, that happened to us, right? We're the victims. It's happening to us. We are inclined to accept bad behaviors, or if we want to use the word negative habits, unhealthy habits, that otherwise might be controlled. By taking responsibility, instead, we will no longer feel like the victim of our own emotions. And Lauren, if you're listening to me, psychologytoday.com, that is 10 common myths about emotions and why they're wrong. If you want to throw that link up there, I think it'd be really helpful for everyone. All right. So tonight we're going to talk about how to begin taking this responsibility for our emotional needs so we stop turning to food. And that's really what this comes down to. We all have life, right? We all have drama. Some people definitely have more than others. I will grant you that. Some people have more kids. Some people have more job responsibilities. Some people have more chaotic family lives. I get it. But regardless of what you face day to day, the reality, right, what actually is happening, the way that you think about it, the way that you choose to feel about it, that's the part that then leads to the eating, as they said in Psychology Today, that would be considered negative behavior that might otherwise be controlled. So it's this detachment from, yes, the reality is I got a ticket today driving. Yes, the reality is my boss was a jerk to me. Yes, the reality is my kids are demanding and want me to do all these things. But the stories that I attach to it, the things I choose to believe, the way I paint myself in that story, victim or hero, that will then be the thing that triggers me to go hit the donuts and the candy and all these different things on the break room table, because I believe I have no control. I believe these are all these external things and I'm forced to deal with them in the way that I'm dealing with it. So we want to really start to think about how to start processing our emotions differently. Emotional eating is a sign of avoiding pain or creating joy. Avoiding boredom. By the way, boredom, a lot of people don't realize that is also an emotion. Avoiding uncomfortable situations or topics. Avoiding arguments. Avoiding being vulnerable. Avoiding doing work, chores, or unpleasant things. I hear this on a routine basis. Heather, I got all this stuff I got to do, and I'm just not wanting to do it, so I eat to cope with that. I eat to deal with that. Creating enjoyment for a job well done. So not only do we use food, and one of the wonderful community members one time said to me, hey, Heather, I notice when I get a job promotion, something great happens, I want to eat to celebrate. But on the flip side, when I get bad news and something terrible happens, I want to eat to deal with that too. Like, what's up? Why am I wanting to eat when I'm happy? Why am I wanting to eat when I'm sad? Like, what is this? Whenever we have these extreme feelings, like something outside the norm on either end of the spectrum, it doesn't matter. It's the pleasure or avoiding the pain. And that is what creates those desires to want to emotionally and really just to detach. Like, we don't like what we're feeling. We don't know how to change the story. So it's escape, right? If I can escape from this, even just for 5 minutes while I'm in the Ben & Jerry's or I'm down in the box of cookies, there were times I was so emotionally stressed and just feeling the pressures. I remember being home with my kids. I had a 3-year-old, a 2-year-old, and a baby. And I was trying to lose weight. And it was all day, every day. I didn't have a nanny. I didn't have a daycare. I just was home with my kids all day. And there was days where I'm standing in front of the refrigerator shoveling the food in because I really just wanted to numb out for a few minutes. I just could not process anymore, right? I was overly stressed, overly sad, feeling the victim, and that was how I was choosing to deal with it. So we're either creating enjoyment for a job well done, creating a reward for working hard and wanting to be recognized. That's another one. We want external validation. We don't give it to ourselves, so thus we use food to kind of reward for a job well done. Creating a celebration for positive new accomplishments, creating comfort after a long week of work, and creating activity to focus on during unstructured or bored times, right? So if you have nothing to do and you're bored, you might choose to eat to fill that emotional void of having something now to do that's pleasant and pleasurable. So those are just some examples, not all of them, of avoiding or creating the positive, right? Wanting one of those two extremes. So in this, we're going to dive into what does this kind of look like? What is the emotional eating coming from? We're going to start to talk about some ways that you can begin to get yourself out of that. And then at the end of this, towards the end of this, I'm going to be taking your questions. So right now we have a wonderful moderator on with us, and ultimately all you have to do is type your questions, and that way we can go ahead and put them here where I will see them. So if you have a question, just feel free to type it up. And then what we'll do is the moderator that's with us today will copy that and provide it to me. So let me just make sure. All right, my computer's dragging, so give me 1 second. I think we're good. Yes, okay. So what we're going to go ahead and do now is we're going to talk about a little bit about where this emotional eating is coming from, okay? So the first thing that we want to keep in mind is that we judge ourselves. So all of these things in your life are happening. Them unto themselves is not the problem. It's not the problem that maybe you showed up a little late to work, or that you maybe didn't want or forgot to pack your kids' lunch, or that you maybe got into a disagreement with somebody, or that you turned a project in a little bit late and you maybe got somebody that said something to you, right? In of itself, those issues really are not the problem. It's the judgment you make about yourself about that situation. I got that project in late again. My boss is going to be so irritated with me. He's going to think I'm so incompetent. Why do I keep doing this? Why can't I be more on top of things like Susie over in the accounting department? Why is it that I am not doing the best job? You're judging yourself. Then what happens? You spend the morning doing that, and the problem was you didn't turn the project in, and instead of focusing on the project and doing something productive and taking action, you've been beating yourself up and judging yourself and kind of wallowing in that. And then what do? Somebody brings donuts in and they put them in the break room, and before you know it, you're emotionally eating. And it's the judgment of the behavior that really prompted you to feel negatively about yourself and have that strong emotional feeling of maybe incompetence or laziness or not being good enough or worthy or whatever the thought is that was going through your mind, as opposed to stepping back like I would as a coach and saying, hey, you did turn that project in late. What could we do to prevent that from happening in the future? Taking action. Oh, you could go ahead and put it on your calendar and get it in a couple days early so that way we don't fall into this again. Or maybe you set up some kind of a reminder system where you have one of your coworkers drop you a note, or you put it on your calendar to send you a reminder, hey, did you get the project done? You can put things in place, but see, that taking action, that letting the judgment go and saying, what can I learn from what went wrong here and improve in the future? That's you being willing to be a student and learn what didn't work, being kind to yourself and giving yourself room to make mistakes and learn and grow from them, and not assuming you should have everything down all the time, right? So it's that detachment from judgment and a willingness to see yourself as having room to learn and grow versus you should be perfect at everything all the time, which nobody is. So the judgment is one big trigger for emotional eating. Pay attention. When you're at work doing your life, I'm not a good mom, I'm not doing these things, I'm not a good employee, I'm not doing these things, I'm not a good kid, I didn't do these things, or I'm an incompetent wife or husband, or whatever the story is you're telling yourself. Judgment, judgment, judgment. All of those are judgments of yourself based on something that may or may not have occurred. And all of those judgments are leading you down the road of emotional eating, as opposed to what I'm suggesting, which is turning it to, what can I learn? What went wrong? What could I do different? Notice they're questions, not judgments. What can I learn? What could I do different next time? What things could I put in place to make it better for me in the future? These are all questions a good coach would ask you in order to get you out of these judgment mindsets. The next thing that we want to talk about, and here's another good one, by the way. My husband and I, we were walking in our little downtown area, and there's always these new mom and pop businesses that pop up, right? Well, one day we went and there was this cute little business. It was there. Well, my husband really likes seeing little businesses get started. And so he was like, oh, this is great. This new business opened up. He was very excited. We went back 2-3 months later, and the business had closed. It was already shut down. They had a sign on the wall saying we're closed, we're going out of business. And my husband immediately was, that's so sad. They're losing their business. They're not going to get to be in business anymore. That makes my heart feel sad. And I said to him, how do you know it's sad? And he said, well, what do you mean? He goes, this is little mom and pop business. They're no longer going to be around. I said, yeah, but what if they opened it and they realized that the business they started really wasn't something they wanted to make money at, that they loved doing it as a hobby, right? I think it was like a crafting store or something like that. What if they loved crafting as a hobby, but getting into it as a business wasn't what they wanted? Like they maybe got into it and realized, ooh, I don't know if I want to do this for a career, like a profitable entity. And they kind of changed their mind. Or what if they realized running the business was so much work, it was putting a strain on their marriage, and they much rather have a strong marriage than have a business? Or what if they realized, yes, we think we can do well here, but then I found out I could do even better in this other area of Florida or this other area of town. And they actually picked up and moved their business. And the point I'm trying to make with this story is, you can have one situation, which is somebody opened a business, closed down a business. That's the facts, right? This business opened, 3 months later it closed. The judgment or the emotional story we attach to it is based on our baggage. My husband saw it as a sad thing. This meant maybe this person's dream was not going to come true. My perception was more of that logistic problematic, like what could have maybe been a problem here, and maybe it was them avoiding a lot of heartache and irritation and frustration that they didn't even know was going to happen until they started it, right? They learned from it. So the point I'm trying to make here is you can make the story go any way you want. You don't have to judge something harshly or with critical eyes. You could actually see it through a totally different lens. Not expressing your feelings. Why are you emotionally eating? Because your mouth can be one of two things. It can be an export where you project how you feel, you share your feelings, you get it out of you and you put it into the world. You share it with your spouse, you share it with your friends, you share it with a good therapist, right? You get it out. Or you say, no, I can't tell anybody about this. I can't share this. Nobody wants to hear it. Again, hear the judgment coming in. So I'm just not going to say anything. But you know what I will do tonight when no one's looking? I'll stand in front of the pantry and down the box of Oreos because I feel very irritated about what just happened and I'm not going to say anything about it. And so thus, I still feel the feelings. I'm not dealing with the feelings in a constructive way. So now I'm going to use my mouth as an import. You're either an export, getting out information, feelings, and thoughts, or you're an import, shoving down the cookies, the ice cream, the candy bars, the chips, because ultimately you don't want to disrupt whatever it is that you're afraid you're going to disrupt. You don't want to be that person who's sharing their feelings about something, so you just hold it inside. When you hold it inside, now you got the original thoughts and feelings, and you feel like you don't want to cause anyone any grief, and so you got even more issues to deal with. So it's not shocking we would turn to food. Another reason you're probably emotionally eating, you're not advocating for your emotional needs. I work a lot with moms and women and business owners on saying, wait a minute, I need this. I need to leave work at this time. I need for you to pick up the laundry and make sure it's done on these days. Advocating for your emotional needs and what you want. You are the only one that can do it. I see people all the time saying, well, I kind of told them I could use some help. What is that? So you can kind of say you need some help. You can kind of say you might feel a little this, that, or the other. But unless you are explicit and you say this is exactly what I need, what does the doctor say? Take 2 aspirin, call me in the morning, right? Very direct. 2, call me in the morning. That's how you need to get with your emotional needs. Advocating for your emotional needs. One, you need to know what they are. A lot of us don't even want to face that. We feel, again, judgy of what we need. Well, oh, I can't possibly say I need that or I want that. I'll seem a little bit like I'm either needy or I'm greedy or I need to be more, I'm gonna have to martyr myself here because I can't possibly say that's what I need. That's the problem. You're not saying what you need when you need it, then you're kind of resenting these situations and other people in your life because you're not saying it. They are not mind readers. They don't know. And ultimately, a lot of times you don't even know. You don't even know what you really need because you have to slow down enough in your life to assess. Man, when I come home from work, one of my clients was telling me how stressed she was. She comes home from work, she jumps right into cooking, and she's like, I just feel so like I'm busting out of my seams. I don't feel good when I'm coming home from work. My young 3-year-old son is clamoring for my attention. I have to cook dinner. I said, you need a break between coming home and cooking dinner. And she's like, really? And I said, yeah. I said, you're jumping from one job to another job, and you need a window of time where you can decompress. She's like, oh, well, how would I do that? I said, does your husband come home? Yes. Does he cook dinner? No. I say, you say to him, hey, hon, I need 20 minutes, very specific, when I come home to cook dinner with our son preoccupied, either outside playing or in his playroom. Could you please take him and do that and give me the space and time I need? Guess what? She got it. Guess what? She's less stressed. Guess what? She's not grazing and eating emotionally while she's cooking dinner. But what did she need? She needed that 20-minute window of time. How did we figure that out? Because every day she came home, she felt stressed and irritated. When you're feeling those feelings, those are like little red flags saying, hey, right here, you need something. You might not know what you need. You may never really have thought about it, but that's what it is. When you feel anxiety, stress, frustration, sadness, whatever, you are processing something that right in that moment you need. So what you need to do is begin to dive deeper into that, figure out what is it I need here, and start advocating for it, asking for it, being proactive with it. All right, next thing, not telling yourself helpful stories. Why are you emotionally eating? Because it's always you getting the cruddy end of the stick. It's somebody did something to you, somebody is out to get you, somebody isn't treating you with respect. Maybe your husband doesn't really love you because if he loved you, he would know what you need and he would do all these things. You are painted as the victim. Bad things happen to you. It's always going to be the worst case scenario. Whether you think that way or not, like right now you might be like, oh, Heather, I never do that. You get cut off in traffic. You're going to work. This guy cut you off. Was he trying to kill you? Is he trying to make you late? Why would he do something like that? Here he is speeding down the highway. From your perspective, it might be all these things are happening to you. But from his perspective, he just got a call that his wife just started bleeding. She's 9 months pregnant. They rushed her to the emergency room. He doesn't understand why you're in his way. He's got to get to his wife, who was just rushed to the hospital. See, these stories can all be played out from different perspectives. You can tell yourself whatever story you want, okay? Because the reality is all you know is this guy cut you off in traffic and he's speeding. Maybe you know those two things. All the other details, all the other verbiage that happens in there about the fact he's maybe a moron and he's trying to kill you and he's trying to make you late for work and he almost ran you off the road. All of those things are you giving the story more of a slant toward you being the victim, towards you being put out, towards you having something negative happen to you. Whereas if you said from the get-go, man, that guy must have something terrible going on. I hope he gets where he needs to go quickly and safely. How would that feel different, right? Somebody goes and they use the copier machine in the break room. It's broken now. And you're like, sure, they broke it. They couldn't call somebody to fix it. Why didn't they do it? Or could it possibly be that maybe the person who was in there ahead of you didn't even realize it was broken? They haven't processed all that, and they honestly just didn't know. And so maybe this is one of the things that, thank God I got in here, because you know what? I actually know who to call. And I'm going to go call the Xerox repair guy and get somebody in here. I'm glad I was here to save the day. How's that different, right? So we create the emotional world that we live in by the stories we choose to tell ourselves. Facts are facts. Xerox machine is broken. Guy cuts you off in traffic. All that other stuff is you making up stories. And usually you're not going to paint yourself, unfortunately, as being the hero. Unfortunately, as being the one that's having life happen for them as opposed to against them. You've got to work really hard at this. You've got to intentionally go in and say, how can I revamp this story from what I would normally tell myself? So the story you're telling yourself is not helping you, which is why you're emotionally eating. The next reason you're emotionally eating, you are not filling your own life with joy. You are not going out of your way to find the things that make your life amazing and happy and putting it in intentionally. You show up at work, you do the things for the kids, you do the things for your spouse, you do the things for your friends and family, but are you taking time out and doing the things that make you happy? Because see, here's the deal. Your life is yours to manage. Your joy and happiness is your responsibility. If you don't feel good or pleasure or happiness at the end of the week and you've got nothing to look forward to, guess what will be your quick, cheap, and convenient go-to? That's right, food. Food is a quick pleasure tool when there's no other pleasure in your day. And that's why we have to be intentional. Find things that bring you pleasure. I have one client right now, she's getting close to being under 300 pounds, and she actually called up a rock wall climbing company in her area. One of the things we have her doing is working on fun activities that she would look forward to doing as she's losing weight. And they said, yeah, we definitely can take you on this one rock climbing wall under 300 pounds. So she knows that's something she wants to do. She's got it on her calendar in the future. She's got other things that we're putting in that she enjoys doing, but we're intentionally putting pleasurable activities, fun things for her to look forward to as she progresses week to week, month to month. You've got to be intentional about putting pleasure in your life. So those are all of some big bucket areas that I see people struggling with when it comes to emotional eating. It's the judgment. It's the stories you tell yourself. It's the not advocating for what you need. It's the story that you choose to tell yourself. It's the not putting in intentional joy to your life with things to look forward to. So what ends up becoming that thing, it's a quick grab from the convenience store because you know what? I deserve this. How many of us have said that? Let's raise our hands, everyone. I deserve that. I mean, my gosh, I turned in 3 projects at work this week. I made my kids' costumes for this. I did all of this for my husband. I deserve this. You know what? There's truth in that. You do deserve something, but you don't deserve the quick pack of cookies or the half-eaten box of donuts that was left in the break room because that's all you could scrounge up. What you deserved was maybe going and spending a day at the spa, or maybe you deserved a couple hours away from your house to read some books that you want to read and get caught up on your own stuff. I had one client who told me, all I want to do is spend a day shopping by myself. I just want to leave my family at home, go shop for the day, nobody else, just me. That's what she wants. You've got to identify with things that are pleasurable to you because you know, when you say I deserve, you are right. You do deserve, but you're settling for what's physically available in that moment, not the thing you really, really want. And the only reason you don't have the thing you really, really want is because you think it might be selfish or greedy or too much for your family to tolerate for you to go do X, Y, or Z and all this other stuff. You're not prioritizing yourself. And because of that, you settle for the bag of M&Ms. You settle for the box of Oreos. You settle for the Haagen-Dazs because it's there, it's fairly inexpensive, and it doesn't inconvenience anybody else. And that has got to change because you do deserve, and you've got to make yourself that priority. Sip of hot tea, hold on. So the question is, Heather, you're nailing it, right? You're with me. Heather, you know I'm emotionally eating. You've hit at least one thing that's one of my issues with emotional eating. But what can I do about this? Okay, like what am I going to do? Emotional eating will not disappear. It won't. It's not going to go, I have a teaching toolkit, End Emotional Eating. It's, I think, a 6-week program that you're going to follow. Doing that program at the end of the 6 weeks, you are not going to be poof fixed. What you're going to be is a heck of a lot more self-aware. You're going to have done a lot of internal work to be way more aware of the things that are causing you to emotionally eat. And you are going to continue, I even say that in the last section of the toolkit, you're going to continue with this work. This work is not something that just ends, because as you progress, you will find new emotional needs. You will find new things that are problematic, and you're going to continue to refine and build and improve, okay? So I want to make sure we're clear on this. When we think about emotional eating, most of us have done it for a very long time, maybe 20, 30, 40 years. You're not going to just immediately get that to go away. It's going to take time. And again, I'm not a doctor, nurse, medical professional, therapist, counselor, or any of that. I have dealt with my own emotional eating. I used to be the biggest victim. I used to think the world was stacked against me. I used to be extremely negative. I used to be extremely sarcastic. I've had a completely personality overhaul, because what I realized was my eating, most of my eating that was emotionally charged, which was a good portion of it, was because of the way I was seeing my life, seeing my circumstances, picturing myself in the world. It wasn't because of those things, of the actual reality of my life. It was more about my perception of my life. And so I want to be clear that this is not something that you're just going to fix. You're going to have to continue to work on. But as you work on it, it does get easier. Changing the narrative that you tell yourself, advocating for your needs, learning how to prioritize pleasure into your life, knowing how to begin to stop judging yourself. And that one probably takes the longest, I'll be honest with you. The not judging yourself is one that you're really going to have to work on for quite a while. But what we can do to stop this, first off, you've got to capture your emotions on paper. You got to start to actually identify. So what I would encourage you to do is, wherever you find you tend to gravitate towards for emotional eating, for most of us, it's our kitchen at home, but it could be somewhere else. I have clients that eat emotionally in the car. I have some that do it at work. I have some that have specific locations they go to. So wherever your emotional eating area is, where you find you do most of it, that is where you would want to keep a notebook. And in this notebook, you would want to do the date, the time. You would want to list out exactly what happened, not from your judgment or story perspective, but if I was a fly on the wall, if I was a video camera, I would actually see these things happening. This wouldn't be I feel, I think, I believe. It's he walked into the door at 4 p.m. He handed me 2 file folders. He said, please get these to me by Friday. Facts, facts, facts. All the other stuff, I felt put out. I felt like my team didn't support me. How could they give me another assignment when they already know I've got 3 going on? I don't have time to do this assignment. I feel like I'm never going to get this pulled together. All of that is the feelings part. But the actual facts of the situation need to be caught on paper. So you would capture the date, the time, the facts, and then all your feelings and emotions. What you ultimately wanted to do to deal with it, which for most of us is going to be eat, right? I wanted to eat to deal with this. But then what we need to start to do once we start documenting this is go back the next day and say, what did I really need in that moment? Well, I'll tell you what you probably needed in the moment we just discussed was you needed to step up and say, hey, John, thank you so much for bringing me these file folders, but I've already got 3 projects going on and I don't see myself having time to do this project. How about we go meet with our manager, Larry, and discuss this in a meeting, because I would hate for our team to get egg on their face because I've already got so many projects going on and I don't think I'll meet your deadline. See, that would be you standing up and advocating and maybe saying, I can't do what you're asking. I am a human being and I have a limit on the amount of time I can spend doing these projects, right? It would be you saying all this as opposed to Timmy knowing that this is true, and Larry, your boss, being aware of what's going on. You have to stand up and advocate, but you're not going to see that in the moment. You're going to need a full 24 hours to come back and say, what did I really need in this moment when he brought in those file folders? What would have been helpful to have had somebody know or do? Start to ask those questions, okay? The next thing is we need to start making a priority to ask for what we need. So stop assuming others should know. Timmy shouldn't have brought me those file folders. He should have given them to Beth because Beth has nothing going on right now. He should have known that. How many of us have said that? He should know that. He should know what I need. No, he shouldn't. You need to verbalize it. You need to stand up and look at Timmy in the face, smile, and say, hey, Timmy, again, thank you so much. I don't know if you know this, but Beth has no projects going on right now. I've got 3. I'm not going to be able to get this. But see, what do? We sometimes go passive aggressive, right? We say, thanks to Timmy, we take the file folders, we grumble under our breath. We might go say something to Joey over at the water cooler about it. We're miffed. And then it gets back to Beth that you had an issue with her. Now there's a feud going on at work, drama. Whereas if you had just stood up at Timmy in the beginning and just refused to take the project and told him that Beth would have been a much better selection, you would have just nixed all that. You would have taken charge. And guess what? Emotional eating goes down. Advocating for what you need, stating it in the moment. Not getting your feelings caught up in it, not making it that you're the person that's being taken advantage of. All of that starts to change your emotional eating behaviors. The next thing, try to see the story that you tell yourself from a different perspective. Going back to our car situation, guy cuts you off in traffic. What if you chose to tell yourself a story where maybe he's the victim and maybe he's having a really bad day, like a day worse than you're having? What if you actually felt empathy or sympathy for him? What if you felt bad for the person who the Xerox machine broke on, and that person maybe had no idea how to get that sucker fixed and had no idea who to call, and they felt like a horrible person because here the Xerox machine's broken and they don't know and they don't feel comfortable asking for help. I feel kind of bad for that guy, right? But we don't always paint the picture that way. So try looking at it from the person who you think is either out to get you, trying to harm you, trying to hurt you, not being sympathetic or empathetic to you. Reverse that. What if you were empathetic and sympathetic to them? How does that change the whole narrative of what you're telling yourself? And it doesn't even have to be true, but it will make you feel differently. You won't feel anger and frustration. You'll start to feel different emotions altogether, different feelings than what you've been feeling. And that's one activity you can start to do right now. Choose to paint yourself as the hero, not the victim. What if you said, from now on, I will not be the victim of any story I tell myself. I will always be the person who is the best to have this happen because I am the person who is capable of doing an excellent job in that situation. I'm the person who can fix the Xerox machine. I was the right person to cut off in traffic because I have quick reflexes and I could avoid that accident. I am the right person for these situations. I am not a victim any longer. If you choose to take that road, you empower yourself. You actually start to see your self-worth even more. Oh, wait a minute, I do have quick reflexes. Oh, wait a minute, I do know how to fix a Xerox machine. Oh, wait a minute, I am the person who can juggle 3 projects and get them turned in. I am freaking amazing. What if you saw yourself that way? How does that change everything? You now go from being this person who's put upon and this person who is maybe being taken advantage of, or someone trying to irritate you or hurt you or backstab you or whatever the stories are you're telling yourself, to now you're the person it was always meant to have happened to because you're the one that's got the skills to make it go, to make it happen. And you in no way are a victim. You are strong. You are capable. That is a totally different narrative and one that diminishes emotional eating. Okay, so these are some of the things that we can begin to do. Changing your expectations, that's the other one. Changing your expectations and not expecting people to know, do, and behave the way you think they should. You cannot control anyone else, and letting go of those expectations is key to long-term happiness. And the last one is putting in healthy boundaries. So many of us, we do not have healthy boundaries. We don't say no to the right things. We say yes to the wrong things. We don't prioritize our own self-care and needs, and then we feel resentment. You have got to begin saying no to those things that are not serving you to make room for the things that are going to help you. So those are all of the tips I'm going to give for tonight on emotional eating. If you need more help, Lauren, could you please go ahead and put the link to the End Emotional Eating Teaching Toolkit? And also, Lauren, could you throw up the coupon code CoachCast10? I normally give 10% off to podcast listeners, but I'm feeling very fiery tonight. I want to throw that here for the Facebook listeners as well. So CoachCast10 will get you 10% off that teaching toolkit if you feel you need to do a deeper dive into emotional eating. And I promise you, it will really change your life. Working on your emotional needs, working on your emotional eating truly is ever changing. I feel like my life is so different now because I don't see myself as a victim. I don't see myself as being sarcastic and petty and all the things I used to see myself as being. And that's been a long time change, not overnight. All right, so now I'm gonna dive into your questions. I'm sure we've gotten some questions submitted. Let's take a look. No questions tonight. Oh my goodness. All right, so I'll wait for just a few minutes. Excuse me. If you have a question and you would like some help tonight, maybe you're struggling with emotional eating or something in general, you know, I would love to be able to help you. This year, my mission is how can I help? And so the ways that I'm helping is I'm doing the VIP newsletter, which has got my 5-part the 5 lesson crash course on permanent fat loss. I am doing these webinars this year, the live Facebook webinars. I'm also doing coaching calls for listeners of the show. So if you are a listener of the show, you're on the VIP newsletter, all you have to do is there's a simple form that's on there and you can fill it out and you're put into basically a pool of people, and I pull 2 random people out of that per month to do a free coaching call with. I'm also doing questions on the Ask Coach Heather, where if you hit reply to one of those emails, I am going to I will be responding to those on the Ask Coach Heather episodes. So Sarah says, will this be available as a replay? Would love to watch again tomorrow if possible. Yeah, that's going to stay here, Sarah, on Facebook Live, so you can definitely watch it again. It'll be saved. Lauren, if you can maybe just put the link to the videos on the main Half Size Me Facebook page. I also have a YouTube channel that I'm turning content out to. So Lauren, if you wouldn't mind putting the YouTube channel there too, that people can like. And with the YouTube channel, I'm taking single individual questions that people submit, and I'm answering that. So specific questions, right? Like, you know, how do I eat out at restaurants? How do I track buffet foods? How do I get more protein in my diet? Like very specific niche questions. I'm covering those on YouTube, so you can subscribe there totally free. And then I'm taking these that I'm doing on Facebook and I'm putting them as podcast episodes. So if you just want to be able to listen back to it, say you don't have time to watch the video, this should be going out, I think, the last Monday in May. I'm not 100% sure. All right, Adrian says, I teach my kids, how can I help are the best words in the English language. I love that that is your motto this year. Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm actually working on that with my kids too, where they'll say, hey mom, somebody dropped their such and such on the ground. And I'm like, well, how can you help them? You know, like this idea that, oh, we notice something's not working, but then what if we just took it down one step further? Like, how could we help a little bit more? The other way I'm helping is by doing the coaching cast and the teaching toolkits, because here's what I've listened. I've been doing this since 2012. I get the same questions on pretty much constant repeat. So I thought, well, you know what? If I take those specific pain points, those areas that I know you're struggling with, like, you know, one of them is how to stop refusing to quit. I know so many people quit, they restart, quit, restart. I made a coaching cast. If you struggle with nighttime eating, grazing, impulse eating, my Escape the Food Prison Coaching Cast is for you. If you struggle with going from the keto diet to the paleo diet to Weight Watchers, back to calories, like if you are just diet hopping and you don't really know what to do, the Stop Dieting and Start Losing coaching cast would be right up your alley. If you struggle with calories is probably the top 3 questions I get all the time. How do I find my calories? How do I do my maintenance calories? How do I get into a calorie deficit? I have a teaching toolkit, Master Your Calories. If you need help with the issue tonight, the end emotional eating, there's a teaching toolkit. And then if you've regained weight, so one of the other pain points I see, I've regained weight that I previously lost, I have another teaching toolkit, which is Fight the Weight Gain, and that's all about getting you out of the cycle that you're in where you've gained weight back and you're struggling to lose it again. So I went and created these things because these are things that people email me routinely, they're struggling with, and I wanted to give you a very concise action plan that you could follow to fix those problems, that you would have solutions in your hand to begin taking action. All right. I think there are no more questions. And Lord, yeah, I don't see any other questions. Just make sure if there is any questions, let me know. All right, looks like I guess we're all caught up. All right. All right, we're good. We got everything caught up. Good deal. Okay. All right. So just want to recap. Trust me when I say emotional eating is very common. Very common. You are not alone on this. You are not the only one. It really is like, it's almost like I use this analogy for emotional eating. It's kind of like you're standing in a room and you're surrounded by curtains, okay? And you think the room looks a certain way. You think the curtains look a certain way. You think that you are in a specific location. But what I have found is with my coaching clients, I pull back the curtains and I show them their life in a slightly different way. We use a lot of these techniques like letting go of judgment, learning from our mistakes, learning from situations, learning to change the narrative, all these different things. And as you pull back the curtains, you start to realize the thing that you thought you were standing in starts to look vastly different. It starts to go from just this dark, drab room where maybe you feel all these negative emotions that charge you to go eat, and you start seeing, wait a minute, this is a beautiful beach over here, or this is maybe a beautiful picture of the mountains, and you start to pull back the curtains and see your life completely differently. Your life doesn't actually change. It's not like you're going to wake up in a different house, you're going to wake up with a different spouse, you're going to wake up with different kids, you're going to have a totally different job. Everything stays the same. It's the perception you have of those things. You can be in a committed marriage or relationship and see your spouse as being a lousy good for nothing and he's annoying or she's constantly nagging you. You can see them that way and you're the one that gets to deal with how that makes you feel. They don't know that you necessarily feel it. You can even verbalize it. They still don't know what that feels like to you. But if you chose to say, they love me so much that they go out of their way to tell me all these things, and I've always said that they're a nag, but maybe they actually are just sharing how much they love me in this one way. Totally different perception change. It's the choice to see your reality through a different lens. And I really cannot begin to tell you how freeing that is, because what you start to realize is you get to paint the picture. You get to make it look however you want. Nobody else does that but you. You guys have a wonderful night. I'll be back with you live next month. I think next month we're going to do the Stop Dieting and Start Losing. I think that's the one. Nope, I take it back. I think we might be doing the Fight the Weight Gain. So if you are somebody who has struggled with regaining weight, that would be the one for you. You have a fantastic night, and I'll be back with you next month.